Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. Welcome to my League One final day predictions and preview episode of the podcast. So much to be decided. Of course, we head into the final day with the relegation battle still to be concluded. The top six is yet to be confirmed, and we do not know who will be crowned champions of Sky Bet League One. By about 3 o'clock, we will know all of those things. Normally we go fixture by fixture. Today, we're going to go battle by battle, if you like. Still working on the wording. We're going to stick by it for the time being. We'll look at the relegation battle to start off with. Then we're going to move over to the playoff top six battle and then the title battle, if you will. So we'll start off with the relegation battle. I think that is, again, one of the three that is yet to be completely decided. Of course, we know Crewe Alexandra will be playing in League Two next season. Other than that, though, Doncaster, AFC, Wimbledon, Gillingham, Fleetwood, Morecambe, all possible to go down. Some definitely more likely than others, but those are all of the sides that could potentially be playing League Two football alongside Crewe next. Of course, 4 of those 6 sides will be relegated, so the majority of those sides will be going down. It's just a matter of who, and of course that will be decided by probably 3 o'clock on Saturday. So, I mean, let's have a look at the league table. Let's have a look at the relegation battle. Let's have a look at what we've got to look at initially. Then we'll sort of break down fixtures individually. So we'll have a look at the situation right now, and then we'll have a look at the individual games within that relegation battle. Then we'll do my predictions, and then we'll put my predictions into a predictor, and that'll give the final teams who will be getting relegated, and of course, who will stay up. So it'll give me my bottom 4 based on my predictions. Hopefully, this all makes sense. So, let's have a look at the league table first and foremost. I was going to call it the relegation battle. We probably should call it the goal difference battle, to be quite honest with you, because you can look at the goal difference there. It is absolutely all over the shop, and that is going to be so decisive. In terms of the points, you can see here Doncaster on 37 points, along with AFC Wimbledon, Gillingham on 40 points, and Fleetwood also on 40 points as well. Of course, AFC Wimbledon and Doncaster, they win both of those games, they'll go up to 40 points, which of course match them with Gillingham and Fleetwood, depending on their results. And that's where goal difference comes into it. Of course, you can see here Doncaster have a substantially worse goal difference, minus 45 goal difference. And for me, that's a problem. That really is a problem. And again, you look at Gillingham, although they're on 40 points, and of course, they are beating Wimbledon and Doncaster on points. Their goal difference is worse than Wimbledon's, not Doncaster's, but much worse than Wimbledon's. Of course, they've got minus 32, so it's 7 worse off goal difference. So again, we talk about the relegation battle, we talk how points are so significant. I honestly think goal difference is going to be, and in fact, I know goal difference is going to be so important, unless there's some unbelievable results in which, maybe Morecambe lose by, lose really heavily, and Fleetwood have an absolute mare, and maybe Doncaster win by 14 goals. The goal difference is going to be very key, and I think that's going to be a deciding factor as we see who will get relegated. We'll have a look at Morecambe first and foremost. They host Sunderland going into the final day. I also think it's very important when we look at these games and when we predict and we preview this final day and these individual fixtures. Both of these sides, a lot of these sides, are playing for different things. We look at Morecambe, we look at Sunderland. Although I think Morecambe are safe, and we'll come on to that in just a second, they're facing Sunderland, who are definitely not safe in the playoffs. And of course, they've got a lot to play for there as well. They want to be finishing in the top 6. So it's so tight in that sense. You've got to remember, as a fan, as a predictor, if you like, or as an observer of these games, you've got to take into consideration both of these sides are playing for different things. Of course, there's some sides that aren't playing for anything. We talk about Bolton versus Fleetwood. Fleetwood have got a lot to play for, of course, as you can see, but Bolton not so much. They'll be finishing probably mid-table. They'll probably take that, but they're not going to be going for the top 6. They haven't got to worry about relegation, and that's where they are at this point in the season going into the final day. However, Fleetwood, they've got a lot to play for. So you've got to, of course, take that into consideration when looking at these games. So Morecambe against Sunderland. For me, I think Morecambe are safe. I think purely based on points, I think that's the reason behind that. I think goal difference is going to be key, as I've sort of really reiterated. And for that reason, I think the points of 42 being 2 ahead of Fleetwood and Gillingham, being 2 ahead of Fleetwood, who are not even in the relegation zone at this point, yet bit by goal difference, but still not being in that relegation zone. Of course, their goal difference isn't great at minus 30. So again, we bring goal difference into it. So it's back into that battle. But I think the points are so important, and although the goal difference compared to the other teams isn't brilliant, of course it's worse than Fleetwood. It's worse than Wimbledon's, only marginally better than Gillingham's by 2. you still feel that you think that the Morecambe will be safe. You know, they come into this game with a defeat off the bat. They're hosting Sunderland, who will come on to them in a minute when we look at the playoff race, but they've got a lot to play for. What's that mindset going to be? What's Sunderland's mindset going to be? Well, you expect them to go, well, and we'll come on Sunderland in just a second, but their mindset's going to be, if we win, we're going to be finishing the top 6. They've got a lot to play for themselves. But Morecambe maybe already being safe, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, 2 points, and that's what I mean. I think 2 points is everything in this relegation battle. I think points ultimately mean, obviously, everything when we look at a league table. But I think in this specific situation, when it's this close, being 2 points ahead than your relegation rivals, I think that could be ultimately completely key. We'll look at Gillingham against Rotherham. Again, we're looking at Gillingham, who have got absolutely everything to play for, and Rotherham, who have got everything to play for in terms of going for a title and going to finish it in the top 2. Of course, MK Dons stiff it down their neck, but we'll come on to them in just a second. I'm trying not to sort of drag on to that and look at more specifically the relegation situation with Gillingham. The home advantage, I mean, could be key, but like I said, you're playing a side who are chasing a title, a very, very good side who are in good form. Who, like I say, have got a lot to play for. But the home advantage is key. We know that the majority of results this season, the majority of wins this season, have come from home sides. Whereas Gillingham at home this season, I think recently they got a draw against AFC Wimbledon. Would a draw be enough today, or tomorrow, should I say? Again, completely dependent on Fleetwood. If Fleetwood lose, then a draw would do it, depending on Wimbledon, Doncaster, and Crewe's results. So a draw, you could get away with it. Remember, if you draw, then you've got to be looking at Fleetwood. I think Gillingham are in a position as well where whatever happens, they're going to be looking at Fleetwood as well. It's not in their hands purely because of that goal difference. If they had better goal difference, all they had to do was ultimately better their result and they'd be fine. Or, win and they'd be fine. But because of that goal difference really holding them back, that's a real concern. They've got the worst goal difference, like I mentioned, which is a real problem. Of course, bettering Fleetwood's result would do it. But again, you've got to look at the goal difference. Of course, that's going to be really key as well. In terms of Oxford against Doncaster, we look at Doncaster as well. The goal difference, again, I feel like I've repeated that sentence and repeated those 2 words, pretty much the first 11 minutes of the episode. But I think it's because it's so key and it's a serious setback for Doncaster. They need roughly to win by about 20 goals. That can, of course, be a little bit less, but depending on the other results. What I'm trying to say is I think Doncaster are down. It's not mathematically over yet, but a minus 45 is detrimental. I think that's the reason why they'll be going down as well. You go into the final day with 37 points and Fleetwood being on 40 points, but you've got a better off goal difference, on par, realistically closer goal difference, then maybe you sort of take your chance, you see what happens. The final day can prove to do crazy things, but the position they are in right now, with a minus 45 goal difference, worse than every team around them, I mean, on par with Crewe, who are already relegated, I think that just puts everything into perspective, really. Very, very unlikely for me. Maybe the away advantage, again, that's not a positive at all. Of course, the average of 28% of away wins this season across all the clubs. That's not going to be a handy stat going into this game either. You've got potentially, in contrast to Sunderland against Rotherham and Sunderland and Rotherham, in the particular games with Morecambe and Gillingham, Oxford haven't got anything to play for in that sense. Of course, they're going to win the game. Carl Robinson said they want to win the game, and we do. We want to end the season on a high, as a lot of these teams do. However, we could be on the beach, we could be relaxed, we could go with a different style of play. I doubt it, but we could go with different personnel within that style of play, and we could be testing different personnel within Carl Robinson's philosophy looking at next season. Again, we'll have to go and wait and see on that. That does depend on Oxford, but ultimately, I can't see it. I just can't see it because of the fact they are just so behind in terms of goals. Looking at Bolton against Fleetwood, for me, it is in Fleetwood's hands, isn't it? They are out of that relegation zone at this point. They've got a better goal difference than everyone around them. So there is that, and then that's going to be absolutely key. They are away to Bolton, so you feel that every advantage equals a disadvantage in this relegation battle. I think that's really, really quite interesting to take away from it. They're away to Bolton. Similarly, maybe with Doncaster or Oxford, are Bolton looking at a season now where they see it as over? They see it as dead and buried, if that's a nice way possible. I wouldn't say dead and buried. That's quite a negative connotation towards what has been a fairly good season for Bolton. I'd say a season where they're not in a position where they have to win. They're not in a position where they're going for anything substantial. Look about a title race, talk about a playoff race. So there isn't that. So what is Bolton's mindset going to be? We look at Bolton's recent form. It is, fairly good, you could say. Of course, they've won 3 games on the trot. They're unbeaten at least of their last 5 games, so they're in very, very good form. Being at home as well, we know the home advantage, you've already mentioned, very, very key. So we'll have to wait and see on that. For me, I easily think Fleetwood could lose that game. Again, that's not a good sign, of course. Although it is in their hands, that's the positive they've got. With AFC Wimbledon against Accrington Stanley, Again, AFC Wimbledon are a little bit in the mix of everything, aren't they, really? They're 22nd in the league. They've got a better goal difference than Gillingham, but a worse one than Fleetwood. Doncaster, of course, is much worse, but they're one of the teams on 37 points. So, again, that's really quite tight, really quite close. Again, Wimbledon being at home, that could have an advantage. You feel that a home set of fans behind a side that are really fighting for their lives to stay in this league, that could really quite help them. Again, you just don't know. They're playing Accrington Stanley, who, again, you don't know what you're going to get with Accrington Stanley, especially at the moment. Very, very inconsistent in those last 5 games. They've lost, they've won, they've drawn, they've lost, they've won. That's just in the last 5. Very, very inconsistent. Exactly 13th in the league, so 58 points. You just do not know what you're going to get. And again, that is, that's almost going to be seen as a positive, but it could easily be seen as a negative for AFC Wimbledon. We're going to have to wait and see. They're going to have to wait and see on that situation. In terms of my predictions, you can see on the screen in just a second, I'll bring up the league table. My predictions I've gone with, I mean, it's really interesting. I think Morecambe will be beaten by Sunderland 2-0 purely based on Sunderland's motive and their reasoning. I think Sunderland are a better side than Morecambe. I don't think that's too controversial to say. Recent form is going to be key. And Morecambe's a little bit better than the other teams around them in the relegation battle, if you like. But I think Sunderland is obviously far, far much better. So I think Sunderland are going to win that game 2-0. I've gone with Gillingham to lose at home to Rotherham. I don't think that's too controversial at all. I've gone with a 3-1 defeat for Gillingham in that one. I think Rotherham fighting for a title, fighting for what they've got to do to try and get out of League One at the minimum, with it going into maybe winning the league. That's very, very up for grabs, very much up for grabs for them. So I think they're going to win there. I think Oxford will beat Doncaster. I've gone with a 2-0 Oxford United win. The reason for that is I think the home advantage is going to be key. We'll keep coming on to that. I think Oxford United are going to be, it's strange to say, but sort of up for a game that means not so much, but because I think they're going to want to put on almost the last dance of the season. There are going to be fans there that are going to really want to be are going to want to see a reaction to defeat against Rotherham, but also, one of them end the season on a high. I think that's really, really important as well. No team wants to end the season with a defeat, no matter what situation you're in. So I think that's going to really quite, not benefit Doncaster at all, but hopefully for Oxford we do come away with the win. I'm sorry, Doncaster fans. And when we look at Bolton against Fleetwood, I did go with the Bolton win there, the home win, but only tight. I've gone with a 2-1 win. The recent form of Bolton for me, of course. By the way, all of these decisions I've made as well been taken into consideration, as we normally do with the betting odds and with the bookies. But I do see Bolton winning the game. I think a home advantage is key. The form's key. I've gone with a 2-1 win. I think Fleetwood will have a part of them that will go, we really do need to go for this, because, of course, although it is in our hands, we just really want to. They've got a better goal, but it is in their hands, and they do want to try and get the best out of the result as they can. And if they win the game, they're absolutely fine. That'll be the message. They win the game, they should be absolutely fine. They lose the game. You've got Wimbledon definitely up there. You've got Gillingham, who could potentially get a result. And although I predicted all of those teams will come to Wimbledon in a minute, but certainly Gillingham to lose, you just don't know. But as a Fleetwood perspective message, win the game, should be fine. For Wimbledon against Accrington, I did go a little bit of a controversial one. I went with AFC Wimbledon winning that one. I think the home advantage, the home fans fighting for your lives, I think that could be absolutely key. So I've gone with Wimbledon winning that one 1-0. Again, I'm intrigued to see what you've got to say in the comments down below. As per usual, give me your thoughts. But, yeah, which in the end, you can see at the league table right now. Ultimately, as I said it right at the start, and as I said for pretty much the first 15 minutes of the episode, goal difference will decide. You can see it on the screen right now. It is the current bottom 4 that will be relegated. Because of my predicted AFC Wimbledon win, they are 21st in the league. They, of course, will only not be staying up because of goal difference. So, again, you can see there 3 teams all ending on 40 points. After 46 games, but the goal difference does decide it. Doncaster Crew relegated alongside Gillingham and AFC Wimbledon. Fleetwood staying up on the final day, Morecambe being fine, even with a defeat to Sunderland. That's what I've gone with. That is what I've gone with. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Again, I've been intrigued to see what you've got to say as fans of his club, but anything can happen going into the final day. But based on my predictions, based on my justification, that is what I've come to. Again, like I say, let me know in the comments down below. Right, that is the relegation zone. Let's move on to the playoff race. So looking at the playoff places, it's very, very tight. Currently, our top three are MK Dons, Rotherham United and Wigan Athletic. Of course, two of those sides will be automatically promoted. The other will be playing playoff football. The other three places are completely up for grabs and anything can change. However, it's four teams battling for three places. Wycombe Wanderers, Plymouth Argyle and Sunderland with Sheffield Wednesday, all aiming to finish in the top six. But like I said, and like I've already mentioned, and I reiterate it again, there are three places with four teams. One of those teams will not be competing in those playoff places. Let's have a little look at the situation at the moment before we look at those individual games. Wycombe Wanderers currently outside the top six, but only due to goal difference on 80 points with Plymouth Argyle, but with the two worst goal difference sees them outside of the top six. For Plymouth Argyle, like I say, they are in sixth spot with 80 points. Their 2+ goal difference on Wycombe Wanderers means they are in those playoff places. Sunderland are fifth in the league with 81 points, and Sheffield Wednesday are on 82 points in fourth spot. But it's that tight, it's that close that anything can happen, and any one of those clubs could end up by about 3 o'clock on Saturday not being in those playoff places, because the goal difference of 25, 25, 25 and 23 is pretty unreal. It's pretty crazy. Just to sort of reiterate it as well, I mentioned it a few weeks ago, I want to really sort of highlight this point and stress this point. If you're going to take anything away from it, I can't predict the future. I can't, I'm not going to tell you who's going to be in the top six. No one is going to know that. I think if we can take away anything from this season, we know it's completely unpredictable. But just a bit of factual information: 80 points last season, which will be a set of points that somebody would have finished on at least on Saturday. Will not see them finish in the top six. A side on at least 80 points will not be playing in the playoffs. Last season, 80 points would have got you third. Blackpool finished on 80 points. They finished third, and in the end, through the playoffs, got promoted to the Championship. That is how close, that is how tight, that is how unpredictable, but also so competitive this season has been. What a campaign it's been. Some top sides, and a lot of top sides being the key point there, all battling it out. Unfortunately, Oxford had their heartbreak last week, but there will be a side that will be facing heartbreak on Saturday. Who will it be? Let's have a little look at the games individually, starting off with Morecambe against Sunderland. We spoke about Morecambe in that side of the game a minute ago. Let's have a look at Sunderland's perspective. I did always spoil my prediction there. I do think Sunderland are going to win this game 2-0, and the reason behind that is I think the momentum, I think the form, the way that Alex Neil's got this Sunderland side playing at the moment is going to be crucial, going to be key, and I think that's the reason why Sunderland are going to win this game. I also think Morecambe, they're not officially safe, they're not mathematically safe, but I do feel that the point difference in that relegation battle is going to be key for them. I do feel they probably are feeling they are safe, and it's a scary thing to do, and they won't ever admit it, but I do feel that they're in a really good position, and a much better position compared to the other sides in that relegation battle. So I think they'll be fine in that sense. What will that be? What will their mindset be as they face Sunderland, who are a very, very good side, and at the moment are really grinding out results. I'll talk about grinding out results, riding a little bit of luck on Tuesday, it seems, against Rotherham United. They won't care, and ultimately I don't think they should care, because I think I'll be contradicting myself if I said that at this point in the season it's about performance. It's not. You can ride your luck. At this point in the season, you get luck, you take it, you grab it, you run away with it. That should be the message, and that will be the message, and that's been something that I've said for a long, long time at this point in the season. The business end of the season is all about picking up those points, picking up the 3 points, grabbing a point away from home, grabbing these really difficult points that you might not normally get. Maybe you have to ride a bit of luck here and there. Sunderland surely have been riding their luck in previous weeks. Talk about those late goals, and again scoring another late goal, an own goal, I think it was, against Rotherham on Tuesday. Again, you've got to ride that luck, and some would argue Sunderland have got more luck than others, but it's football. No one can predict that. And also as well, let's not forget, let's not just say Sunderland are just a lucky side. They're not. That would be wrong of me to say. Sunderland have done very, very well this season. You don't finish fifth in the league purely based on luck. Otherwise, we'd have a lot of teams around the area scoring late goals. It's just not the case. They've been very, very good, and they've proven this season that they've got a very clear goal, Sunderland, and they feel that anything else than top six is an ultimate failure. They don't feel that they can stay in the top six. They don't feel they can stay in League One, for much longer. So I think it's very, very important for them to finish in those playoff places. Will they go up through it? Well, it's complete lottery, of course. And also, when we look at them, again, looking at the game and looking at the bigger picture, a win would see them finish in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that's mathematically right as well. Of course, they're on 81 points, with 3 points on top of that. We'll see them on 84. No matter if Plymouth and Wycombe win, they'll both be on 83. But because Sunderland are on an extra point going into the final day, Their goal difference being better than Wycombe Wanderers, and the same as Plymouth, a win would do it. So it's in their hands, it's in their control. That's a big bonus, a very, very big bonus. Having it in your hands going into the final day, not having to worry about the other results. I'm sure they will probably look at those results, but not having to rely on those results could be very, very key. In terms of Sheffield Wednesday, they host Portsmouth. Very, very similar to Sunderland, really. A win would secure them a playoff place, because on 82 points, a win would send them to 85. No matter the other results, they would finish in the top 6. Very, very good for Sheffield Wednesday, that is. And I do feel they will win that game. I've predicted Sheffield Wednesday to win 2-1. I'll do my predictions all now, if you like, but as we go game by game. But I will also show you what my predictions mean for the league, if that makes sense as well. We're doing my final top 6, if you like, or 4th, 5th and 6th, 7th places based on the predictions I have given. But I will tell you, Sheffield Wednesday have predicted to beat Portsmouth by 2-1, even though Portsmouth recent form has been very, very good, unbeaten in their last 5, including 4 wins in there, and their home advantage for Sheffield Wednesday could be very, very key. But going back to Portsmouth's home form, been very, very impressed with that, even though they're not at home. I don't know why I mentioned that. I meant home and away form. Their recent form generally has been very, very good. And I think you look at where Danny Cowley's got his Portsmouth playing, this Portsmouth side playing at the moment, I think is very, very positive. And although their inconsistency at the start of the season has held them back, I think if they really had sorted that out early on, they could be in a very, very different place. Currently 9th in the league. Of course, then they're not in this playoff race. But next season, again, it's about ironing out that inconsistency. I think they could have been a really, really good place, because at points this season, been very, very impressive. There's no reason why they can't, spoil the party at Hillsborough with a win against Sheffield Wednesday. But I've gone with the Sheffield Wednesday win by 2-1. You're already seeing where this is going. If I've already told you Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday a win would secure them a playoff place, and I predicted them both to win, there we go. I've almost spoilt it even more than you thought. Next up, we've got Plymouth against MK Dons. Plymouth, their home form is very, very good. Before that draw against Sunderland quite recently, He'd won 6 games on the bounce, hadn't conceded a goal. He didn't concede a goal on Sunday. It was 0-0, wasn't it? But, very, very impressive stuff for Plymouth, especially at home. At home part, this is a bit of a fortress. If you can build your home ground as a bit of a fortress, that's not bad at all, and a very, very good place to go. And going into this game on the final day against MK Dons, that's going to be a really, really important advantage to have. And any small win, any small victory is very, very important. It's important in coaching, but it's also important in the bigger picture. Take those small wins, take that home advantage, take that key into the game. I think that's going to be what they're going to try and do in this game. I'm sure it's going to be a sellout. I can't imagine anything different. Home Park's been selling out very, very quickly in recent weeks, and you can see why. There's something going on at Plymouth. They didn't expect them to be in this position come the end of the season, but ultimately Plymouth are doing a fantastic job, and fair play to them. They've got themselves in the position on the final day, 6th in the league, where if they win, of course, that's going to be slightly different. Of course, Plymouth and Wycombe, they're sort of battling it out based on each other's results. Ultimately, though, they're both going to want to win and make it very, very interesting. Then goal difference comes into play. But ultimately, very, very impressive stuff for both of those sides. But let's go back to Plymouth. Let's go to MK Dons as well, because we will be looking at MK Dons in more detail, looking at the title race in just a second. But what I can tell you, though, is Plymouth against MK Dons is going to be a very, very good game of football. Both sides like to play good football. Both sides like to play attractive style of play. Both Schumacher and Manning both have a very, very, not similar style of play, but very, very attractive footballing philosophy. And that's going to provide a really good game of football. That could make it go either way, and that's the beauty of the game. Looking at sort of the recent form of Plymouth, that hasn't been brilliant. We look at the recent patchy form. I haven't won a game in the last 4, 3 draws in those last 4 games, and a defeat in there as well. Draws this point in the season, they're okay, but you've got Wycombe winning, you've got Sunderland winning, and you've got Sheffield Wednesday winning. It's all of those have won a game in the last 3. Plymouth Argyle, the only team that haven't. That isn't helpful. That isn't helpful at all. Hence why I thought this earlier a few weeks ago, really, I thought they'd be a team definitely secured. They're definitely not secured now. They're in a good position. They're in a good position, but they could have been in a better position. They can't look back though. That's going to be really important. They can't look back. They can't look at hindsight. That's just the way it is. But they were in a much better position going into this final day. MK Dons still have a lot to play for. That's very, very important. Of course, they're still hunting for a top 2 place. If in doubt, it's going to be a top 6 place. I'm sure they'll take that as well. But they've got a lot to play for. They want to be hunting down Rotherham United, who are in 2nd. Only points separate those 2 sides. Like I say, we'll be going into a bit more detail on that in just a minute. But they've still got a lot to play for, and that's very, very important to take into consideration. I've gone with a 2-2 draw in that game. Goals, a draw, high-scoring draw. Plymouth 2, MK Dons 2. And finally, then we're going with Burton against Wycombe Wanderers. I mean, Wycombe, they always find a way, don't they? Wycombe Wanderers under Gareth Ainsworth in recent years, they've always tried to find a way of defying expectations, proven to be a very, very different side to break down, and a very, very good side going forward. Maybe not the most attractive style of play, if I can say that in the most polite way possible, but they have a way of winning games, they have a way of grinding out results, and they have a way of gaining success, if you like. But again, backs against the walls mentality is Wycombe's style of play, and that's exactly what they try and do. Underdogs mentality, it gets them through these games, and eventually they won't be seen as the underdogs, but you feel that will never rub off under Gareth Ainsworth. That's exactly the mentality he wants to put into place, and it's working, and it's winning games of football. They have struggled against sides in the lower end of the table. They drew to Gillingham, they drew to AFC Wimbledon. Both those sides, I've mentioned the relegation battle going into the final days. They have struggled, both of those ending in 1-1 draws. Will we have the same story against Burton and Albion? I think Burton are a better side than those two sides they've drawn with, but again, Wycombe have this strange thing where when they play sides that play really attractive football, try and play really good football on the deck, they do seem to win games. They do seem to get good results again. Oxford have been beaten by them, especially at home. I know this is away, but I mean, regardless, they just do tend to do it. MK Dons, I don't know if they've beaten MK Dons this season. They've definitely beaten Plymouth. They've definitely beaten Oxford. So they've caused problems against the sides that have tried to play a little bit more attractive football. The sides that like to play similar to Wycombe, very quite direct, they seem to maybe struggle a little bit. It's almost like hitting the same. They almost sort of like, it's almost like a clash in terms of the similar styles of play, which is why against Burton's a little bit of it's almost like a mixed match of both of them under Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen there. I've gone with a 1-1 draw in that one. I've gone with Burton drawing with Wycombe. I think the home advantage of Burton could be key. We know Wycombe recent weeks away from home against sides in the lower end of the table. I don't know. But you also feel that when it matters, I'm sort of conscious to myself already, when Wycombe have their backs against the wall, when Wycombe really want to win and they know the importance of it, they always seem to find a way. So it's so tight, but I've gone with a draw. I've gone with Morecambe to lose 2-0 to Sunderland. I've gone with Sheffield Wednesday to beat Portsmouth 2-1. I've gone with Plymouth to draw with MK Dons 2-2. I've gone with Burton to draw 1-1 with Wycombe, which means 3-2-1. This is what it looks like. This is my top, my three, with Wycombe, of course, in 7th. Wycombe, I've got the side that would not be competing in the playoffs. It will be Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland, Plymouth in that top 6. Of course, look how tight it is. Look how close it will be. Sheffield Wednesday on 85 points because of their win over Portsmouth. Sunderland would also win. They'd be on 84. And Plymouth would only get in there because of goal difference. They both add a point to their tally, both Wycombe and Plymouth finishing on 81 points. But the goal difference wouldn't change because of those two draws. So it'd be a 2 gap in goal difference, 2 goal gap in goal difference, meaning that it'll be Wycombe that miss out. That is what I've gone with. But like I say, unpredictable stuff in Sky Bet League One. That's just a fact now that we can say it. It's taken us 45 games to realise that it's absolutely unpredictable and we cannot predict a thing. But that's what I've gone with. I'm going to have to predict those different outcomes. That is what I've gone with. Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland and Plymouth, the teams finishing in those playoff places. We'll have to wait and see. Very, very tight. Very, very nervous, I can imagine. Very, very edgy. Let's see what happens. Let's move on now to the title race. So finally then, let's have a look at the title race. We cannot beat a final day title race. 3 teams in it, very, very close. MK Dons currently in 3rd, Rotherham in 2nd, and Wigan Athletic currently leading the way in 1st. 86 points for MK Dons, 87 for Rotherham United, and 89 for the current league leaders in Wigan Athletic. But first of all, let's have a look at that recent form. It's not brilliant, is it? I mean, all of the sides have lost 2 games in their last 5. A lot of draws in there as well. Wigan haven't won a game in their last 5. Rotherham have got a few draws in. They come into a few draws, a few wins as well. They come into this game with a draw, and MK Dons as well, they do come into this game, unlike the other 2 sides, with a win, but 2 defeats before that. Let's have a look at the individual games for these 3 sides. Shrewsbury against Wigan is that one. And I think straight away, we'll start with the facts. I don't want to beat around the bush. Ultimately, if Wigan win, they'll be crowned champions. No matter what happens with Rotherham United, whatever happens with MK Dons, it does not matter. If Wigan win, they'll be crowned champions of League One for this season. They played a side in Shrewsbury that have caused problems. Don't ask Rotherham about the problems they caused a few weeks ago. They went to Rotherham and won 3-0. But arguably, they come into this game having to play for nothing. They aren't involved in a relegation, but I'm sure they'll be quite pleased about that. But they're not in any sort of playoff race, of course, and they're not quite in the total race. Who knows, though, next season. But ultimately, I think Shrewsbury will be happy with their season, and they'll be happy probably coming into the final day, not involved in any sort of drama, and they can just see the season, go into summer, and then rebuild for next year. Or not rebuild necessarily, but go again for next year. Prepare for next year is the best way of putting it. As for Wigan, we've already mentioned them in a little bit detail in terms of their recent form, but yeah, they haven't won a game in the last 5, and they come into this game with a defeat, a 3-2 defeat to Portsmouth. So how's the confidence going into the final game? We'll have to go and wait and see, and this game will surely prove and show us that sort of confidence within that Wigan Athletics squad. But the most important thing to stress really here is if Wigan beat Shrewsbury, they will be crowned champions. We'll come on to my prediction in just a second as well. Of course, we'll be looking at my predictions going into the predictor, and that will allow us to see who I think will be crowned champions, who I think will go up automatically in second, and who will take up the last playoff spot. We'll put my predictions into that as well, similarly to what we did with the relegation and the playoff race as well. So let's have a look at the Gillingham game. They face Rotherham United. We've looked at that game from a Gillingham perspective. That's a little bit more of a Rotherham perspective now. They're playing a side, like I said, in Gillingham, desperately fighting their lives to stay up in the league. Very, very tough battle of a game. We know Gillingham's mentality going into this game, most likely keep the game tight. We know Gillingham, they don't have a great goal difference, so maybe they're going to be looking at winning the game by more than one goal. I think Gillingham, to be fair, just winning the game is going to be the most important thing, but we do know with Gillingham, they are going to have to win by more than one goal, unless Fleetwood and AFC Wimbledon lose very, very heavily. But again, we'll have to wait and see on that. I do feel Rotherham can overcome those moments. I think that's the really important thing as well. I feel like Rotherham have got the quality within them. I feel like Rotherham have got the position where you feel they've got the quality within the squad. They've got better qualities compared to Gillingham. We know what Gillingham are going to try and do. Make it quite scrappy, make it quite tight, make it a tough game. And you understand why Gillingham are going to do that. They're going to try and upset Rotherham in that sense. But we also know, we've played as Oxford United Rotherham quite recently. They're quite a physical side as well. So it's going to be a really, really interesting match. Again, we'll come on to my point in just a second in terms of my prediction. They're off the bat, Rotherham, of a draw to Sunderland in midweek. In hindsight, maybe they would have wanted a little bit more from that game, especially considering they went 1-0 up. Apparently, Sunderland's equaliser wasn't the most justified goal, but anyway, whatever you look at it, they come away with a point at this point in the season, a point to Sunderland. The form they're on, you probably would take that. Maybe they would hope for more, would have to go and look back on that, but you can't really do that at this point in the season anyway. But that's a really interesting encounter, a tough game that one. I can see that being quite an edgy game, not necessarily low of goals, but certainly one where there's going to be moments in games going to be quite scrappy. It's going to be sort of a battle of who's going to keep hold of the game, who's going to keep hold of the moments and win those small victories across the 90. Very, very interesting match there. And one thing I would look at Rotherham as well, very, very important. Let's have a look at how they could win the league. I'd say how they're going to win the league. A little bit confident maybe from a neutral, but let's see what Rotherham can do. And let's see if Rotherham win, this is how they can win the league. So it's important to stress, this is if Rotherham win the game. They have to win the game. There's a 2-point gap between them and Wigan, which means a draw, no matter what happens, will not do it. They have to win the game. So it's simple as if Wigan draw and Rotherham win, it comes down to goal difference, and Rotherham would win because of Rotherham would win the league, because of their goal difference, and they'd again have a better goal difference as it is the same. Both on 35 goal difference at the moment, which means it would come down to goal difference. Of course, if Wigan draw, they benefit their goal difference by absolutely nothing. And if Wigan have won, they have to have won by at least one goal to win the game. They would have a better goal difference, therefore they would be crowned champions. And then, of course, if Wigan lose and Rotherham win, they win the league. Simple as that. So Rotherham, they're going to have to look at Wigan's result if they are looking to win the league. I'm sure they are going into the final day. But, of course, as well, they've got that top two to look out for. So it's not all doom and gloom if they don't win the league. But I can imagine within that Rotherham fan base now, it's all about winning the league. And then finally, we go to Plymouth and MK Dons. We've spoken about the game from a Plymouth perspective, a little bit more of an MK Dons side of it. Again, we're looking at MK Dons. They are playing a side in Plymouth that are desperately trying to finish in the top 6. And Plymouth know anything less than a point is extremely dangerous. Of course, if they draw the game, we mentioned it, if they draw the game, it's looking very edgy. They lose the game, then very, very dangerous. Very, very high chance of them not finishing the top 6. So Plymouth are probably going to approach the game with a winning mentality. Have Plymouth ever entered a game with no winning mentality this season, with the way they like to play, the players they've got, and the surprise they've offered this season? Probably not. I think Plymouth have played with no fear for a lot of this season, and that certainly has caused them to have a great campaign. So really excited to see how this game comes out. Both of these sides, both of these managers like to play a very, very good style of play. Very, very aggressive in the way they attack. Offensively, very, very strong. Very, very good attacking players as well as defensively. They don't concede many goals either. It's going to be a really, really good game of football. I can see goals in this one. Even though they concede goals, I can see both of these sides scoring a lot of goals as well. Their attacking qualities, as I already mentioned, are very, is very, very dangerous. I think it's going to be a really quite high scoring game. I've already given my prediction for that. I did say that was going to be 2-2. As for the Gillingham game as well, I did give that away. I said that Rotherham were going to win that one 3-1. So it's that time of the episode then. Who do I think will be crowned champions of Sky Bet League One? Let me know yours in the comments down below. Remember, it's just a prediction. I can't read the future. Here on the screen right now, you can see I've gone with Wigan Athletic to win Sky Bet League One this season. Shrewsbury losing 2-1 to Wigan. Therefore, whatever happens, regardless of the other results, if Wigan win, which is what I predicted, they will win the league. Of course, it's just a prediction. I'm very, very intrigued to see what you've got to say. Rotherham United fans, I know I've got a few of them watch the episodes, watch the podcast. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I imagine you've probably got a few biased opinions, but I'm all for it. Let me know in that comments section down below. I'll be replying and responding to all of those thoughts. If it maybe isn't the title race discussion, we'll have a playoff discussion and a relegation discussion as well. Let me know. Like I say, I'll be replying and responding to all of them as well. Last thing to say, really, good luck going into the final day. Very, very decisive things to be concluded. I cannot wait for it. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell as well. That way you'll be notified when I go live or do recorded episode just like this one. Let's see what happens. A big roundup. Lots of episodes to come very, very soon. You do not want to miss it. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Jack. This has been the Young Fan Podcast. I'll see you all very, very soon. See you in a bit.